Hello everyone. This is the 45th part of the story, Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 265. Sitting on the airplane, Wolverine's expression looked quite serious. Just now, he received Charles's message that let him lead the team to join a battle. The reason was the human government complained to Xavier's school that a mutant who owned the demon's ability appeared downtown. This mutant wreaked havoc in the city, causing heavy casualties in the human army. Considering the capability of the human army, Wolverine instinctively felt that this was not a small matter. So he asked Hank to drive the plane to the spot with the young Quicksilver and Cyclops. But getting on the airplane, Wolverine felt something not at par when he saw Cyclops, who was still wearing glasses as usual. Unintelligibly, he sensed danger from Cyclops. At this moment, Hank sat on the main driver's seat and Wolverine sat on the co-pilot's seat. Wolverine turned his head back and secretly gazed at Cyclops's young face, but everything was the same as usual. Cyclops noticed Wolverine's gaze, and also looked back at him. "Captain, what's the matter?" asked Cyclops. Nothing." Wolverine returned his head, the strange feeling in his heart instead of reducing but increased. Let it pass, Wolverine thought, finishing the task first, and then slowly observed this guy. A few hours later. After getting off the airplane, the devastated urban area showed in front of them. There were several inches deep footprints on the ground, the burning tank and the wreckage of the fighter jet. They looked at each other in shock. Was this really done by a mutant? Wolverine estimated that this mutant's strength was stronger than himself and had at least reached Magneto's level. When did another level 4 mutant appear in this world? Besides, Wolverine clearly perceived that both Hank and Quicksilver looked surprised, but Cyclops, instead of scared, looked quite excited. Wolverine, who has been fighting on the battlefield for most of his life, could easily tell it that Cyclops's excitement was absolutely not the raw recruit's ignorance on his face. As if this guy really owned some whole cards to face such a great power. At this time, Professor X's concerned voice appeared in Wolverine's mind. "Logan, be careful. The enemy is a blue-skinned demon, very powerful. His ability is fire and has reached level 4. I have tried to control him using my telepathy ability, but failed. His spiritual strength is extremely powerful, as if the mutants in ancient times. Wait, you follow this demon first, and don't rush up. There was another level 3 mutant on the spot, but he will not be the opponent of this demon. Taking a chance, you rush to rescue this level 3 mutant and bring him back. If it's necessary, I will cast a portal on your location." "Okay, got it, Charles." After replying to Charles, Wolverine notified everyone to board the airplane. In the airplane, Hank spaced out for a while. Obviously Charles was messaging him about this demon's location. Whereafter, they hurried toward the scene. Just when arriving at the spot, Wolverine had seen a blue-skinned demon using a pair of energy claws was trapping a winged man. Instantly, Wolverine prepared to open the hatch door to rescue this winged man. However, before Wolverine got out of the seat, Cyclops had stepped ahead of him and directly jumped off the airplane without a parachute. "No, Scott!" Wolverine yelled instinctively. Too reckless. Except for him, who could ignore such a high altitude and jump off directly? Whereafter, he looked down below the airplane, but except for the vast desert, there was nothing. At this moment, Wolverine realized where was Scott. Then he raised head unconsciously. An amazing scene appeared. Scott was flying and rushing towards the demon with an unrecognizable high speed. This. Wolverine opened his mouth wide. He finally knew why he had a dangerous feeling from Scott before. It turned out that this guy hid his strength. Next, he saw Scott taking off his glasses during flying. Instantly, 2 blood-curdling rays shot toward the demon. Boom! The demon activated his transfer ability and avoided Cyclops's attack. The 2 rays shot on the ground, stirred up a cloud of sand. Then the demon disappeared in place again. Next moment, he suddenly appeared beside Scott. The demon flapped his wings flying in the air. He suddenly opened his mouth and sprayed flame towards Scott. "Be careful, Scott!" Quicksilver yelled eagerly inside the airplane. In the current situation, he had to wait for the airplane to land first. He knew very well that without a foothold, he would be unable to use his high-speed movement ability. Next, Hank hurriedly landed the plane. But Wolverine couldn't wait and jumped off the airplane ahead of time. In the mid-air, Wolverine saw an unbelievable scene. Scott actually got out of the demon's flame leisurely, besides he gave the demon's hard jaw a heavy blow. Ah! The demon didn't expect Scott's reaction so fast, and his strength so great. Instinctively, the demon couldn't help covering his jaw, at the same time his wings still flapped to ensure his body won't fall down. At this moment, Scott wanted to punch the demon again. But, this time his fist was firmly held by the demon. The moment, Scott's shape contrasted with the demon just like a child to an adult. Humph! The demon's hand became harder, Scott's fists sounded a cracked voice. Then the demon raised his head and looked at Scott cruelly. Looking at this pair of eyes, Scott couldn't help but tremble as if he saw countless heartrending lives the demon had brutally abused during his long life. Only a real psychotic could show such a bloodthirsty look. Soon, the demon's hand appeared aflame, and it began to burn Scott's fist. Oh! Scott screamed in pain, his muscles bulged violently, but he still couldn't break away from the demon's hand. Despair excites me. The demon liked to see the expression of despair in humans, because he could absorb the power of despair. Humans' negative emotion was just the source of the evolution of the demon. Just when the moment of Scott couldn't continue to stand up, Wolverine finally arrived. He ran behind the demon, ready to jump up to poke the demon's heart. At this time, the demon also found Wolverine, and his eyes rolled strangely. Boom! Two huge energy claws suddenly drilled out beside Wolverine's feet, and they trapped Wolverine in the same way of trapping Angel before. Chapter 266. When Wolverine saw this pair of energy claws, he immediately pulled them with his best strength at the first time. But even so, the claws were still there firmly and he didn't cause any injury to them. Wolverine's veins came up and continued to slam them desperately. Bang bang! Eventually, this pair of energy claws couldn't bear the successive hit of the adamantium paws and was smashed into pieces. After regaining freedom, Wolverine continued to rush towards the demon. The demon looked back at Wolverine, was a bit surprised that Wolverine was able to take off his energy claws, and spontaneously gazed at Wolverine's steel paws carefully. At this moment, Scott was still unable to get rid of the energy claws. He roared and continuously shot the rays toward the demon's chest. The blood-red rays instantly burned the demon's chest. At such a short distance, the impact of the laser rays were greater and successfully blew the demon on the ground. The demon got injured for the first time. Quicksilver finally landed at this time. He immediately activated his super speed ability and hit the demon several hundred punches in an instant. But the demon stood there motionlessly as if Quicksilver's punches didn't work on his thick-skinned at all. Quicksilver had to get out of the demon's striking distance for the first time. At this moment, the demon's eyes rolled again, his energy claws accurately intercepted on Quicksilver's escape route as if predicting it in advance. In others' view, it just liked Quicksilver actively drilling into the demon's energy claws. What an amazing combat awareness! Wolverine knew the demon's combat awareness far surpassing everyone present, even if himself, who had accepted the baptism of the war about a century, was also unable to match with him on this point at this moment. But for Wolverine, fight head-on was his life credo, no matter how powerful the enemy was. He owned the healing ability and never knew what fear was. Next, Wolverine came near the demon again. Inside Xavier's school. Through the god telekinesis, Bruce was watching this battle that happened in the desert. Bruce could see that Scott was the only person present who could compete with the demon, but Scott hadn't mastered his power. Besides, he had too little combat experience. At present, Scott was not the opponent of the demon who had gained thousands of years of fighting experience from the memory. This was the disadvantage of staying in school. Fighting experience could only be exercised in life and death. If it's Gambit who had the same ability with Cyclops, he won't be in such a difficult position, though he couldn't also beat the demon. In the same conditions, It would definitely be a one-sided result if these mutants faced Asgard's fighters who fought day and night in the Nine Kingdoms. Obviously, X-Men, if they continued to fight like this, they were likely to be killed by the demon one by one. Bruce stood there motionless, he waited calmly and didn't intend to take action. Because he knew there was another person, who stared at this combat as same as him, this one won't let things go on in this way. Sure enough, all the X-Men stopped attacks in the next moment. Obviously, Charles issued orders to everyone at the same time. Charles made a decisive decision and let Cyclops bring up the rear. Wolverine led others to retreat to Hank's plane. At this time, Bruce saw an interesting scene in which Angel, who had been rescued by Hank, was actually ready to take attack after seeing the demon was injured by Scott. Bruce shook his head lightly, and controlled Angel, following Wolverine to retreat after taking over Angel's thoughts remotely using his god telekinesis ability. Seeing this scene, the demon wanted to blow up the plane, but was entangled by Scott. Therefore, the demon had to give up the plane and turn back to fight with Scott. At the critical moment, Professor X finally took action. He cast a fierce spiritual attack on the demon's mind. The demon couldn't ignore Professor X's attack because he was at the same level as him. Taking this opportunity, Professor X cast a portal and brought Cyclops back from the battlefield. After returning to school, Cyclops fell to the ground exhaustedly. This life-and-death fight just now almost took his life away. Professor X raised Cyclops's burned hand carefully. He saw that Cyclops's hands that burnt and necrotic on the surface were rapidly healing and regenerating underneath the necrotic tissue actually. Now, Cyclops also owned the healing ability, though its recovery speed was a bit slower than Wolverine. The professor put a hand on Cyclops's head and began to check Cyclops's memories. In the hazy memory scene, he saw Cyclops awakening the level 4 ability himself one day as he ran out of school for a meal. But Cyclops did not say to others after discovering it. The professor fell into deep thought. In fact, he didn't know it was Bruce's manipulation. A long time later, Professor X messaged Bruce to take a meeting. Inside Professor X's office, the professor was holding a cup of coffee. Wolverine was sitting opposite the professor, describing his views about that demon. After seeing Bruce, Wolverine stopped his talk. The professor turned his head to look at Bruce, smiled and said, "Bruce, thanks for your hard work recently. The kids at school have quickly adapted to their own abilities, this is all your credit." "It's fine, Professor, it's just what I should do." Bruce secretly though whether Professor X specially called him here just for thanks. "Bruce, I recently discovered that Scott's power is awakening again. His ability is very important. I know both you two have a good relationship. I hope you can let him get familiar with his power as soon as possible." Hearing Professor X's words, Bruce immediately understood a point: why Professor X did not allow him to join the battle was just more valued for his teaching ability. After all, Wolverine didn't have the patience to teach these kids, and Hank also needed to continue his weapon research for the school. The only one who can relieve Professor X's burden on teaching was Bruce. Bruce also understood very well that in the professor's mind, educating children was more important than fighting. He had no choice. However, it didn't matter, Bruce thought, the progress of the task would still be under his control even if he stayed at the school. Besides, there were 2 time bombs in the school, Wanda and Jean, he must keep an eye on them to prevent accidents. Giving Professor X a nod, Bruce left the office. After leaving the office, Bruce pretended to go back to his room. Walking on the road, he saw that Angel gathered his wings and was surrounded by mutant kids. The children were very curious about his metal wings. Angel answered the children's questions patiently, until Bruce appeared. He found an excuse to walk outside the school. Chapter 267, The Real Angel. At an empty suburbs. Bruce looked across at the Angel and nodded. At this time, the Angel had a great change from the past. Behind him, huge wings swayed in the wind. The difference with the past was that he had 4 wings behind him instead of 2. His original metal wings had changed back to the white feathers. Powerful and holy aura filled around him, made him give out a sanctity, shocking light. Bruce felt such an angel just deserved the title of angel. The previous one, it at most could be called Birdman. At first, Bruce just had a try idea, and did not expect that it would really succeed. After all, he had previously proven that mutants generally couldn't accept the second strengthening. He also did not expect that the angel was unexpectedly strengthened successfully again after he accepted Apocalypse's strengthening. This, in turn, brought him a new path to strengthen mutants. Even he was now amazed about Angel's new ability. With these in mind, Bruce checked Angel's information again. Name, Warren Kenneth Worthington III. Identity, Archangel, Level 4 Mutant. Abilities, Angel's Body, 100W, Light Mastering, 100W, Ice Mastering, 90W, Atavistic Consciousness, 80W, Angel Blood, 80W, Super Dynamic Vision, 50W, Flight, 30W. After 2 evolutions, the angel activated his ancestral gene and acquired the ancestral fighting consciousness. After all, the blood of Angel's ancestor was not pure like the Nightcrawler, so he was lucky in this evolution. Bruce could not help but experience Angel's body, just as Angel was evolving successfully. As soon as his soul entered Angel's body, he found himself surrounded by the power of light. This light force, though weaker than Bruce's light source ability, it's also very close. The light mastering, which included the ability to heal extensively, combat blesses, eliminate curses, restraining darkness. The ice mastering allowed him to cast a widespread magic such as the ice storm. Strength, speed, and reflexes had multiplied because of the angel's body. By comparison, today's angel was still not as strong as Demon on body, but his magic ability was more powerful than Demon. Next time, Angel would not be so easily taken down by Demon if they fought again. Instead, he would let Demon surprised. Master. The angel Warren looked at Bruce, folded his wings slowly and returned to the normal appearance of human beings. At this moment, Warren looked no different with a normal human, no matter the body type or appearance. If he didn't shift shape, no one could find he was an angel. Air. Bruce pondered for a while. Due to the enmity between Angel and Devil, he felt better letting Angel stay in the school. If Angel didn't get the second strengthening, he wouldn't dare to look for Demon's trouble. But if he found himself so powerful now, he would certainly seek vengeance to the Devil. Until now, Apocalypse was still gathering his 4 horsemen. As a result of Bruce's intervention, Angel was under his control, Magneto still stayed at his farm, so Apocalypse would only have Storm and Psylocke. The mission of the system was to increase the power of X-Men and defeat the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse. If Angel joined X-Men, Professor X's force would definitely get a great improvement. Thinking this, Bruce had an idea. Next, he told Angel to stay at Xavier's school and let Angel find a suitable opportunity to join X-Men. In this way, Professor X's force would get a great improvement. After all, although Cyclops became stronger now, he was still not enough to face Demon alone. Plus Angel, who was the same level as Demon, the situation would be different if X-Men faced Demon head-on again. After all, Apocalypse was an invincible existence in this world as long as Jean and Wanda didn't really grow up. The only thing Bruce needed to do was improve X-Men's force to suppress Apocalypse. In this way, the earnings of the energy value would be maximized after Apocalypse died in the future. The Deep in the Desert. Before long, the Demon had recovered from Professor X's attack. He felt unprecedentedly angry when seeing the Professor brought Scott away. How could a Birdman be so hard to kill? He glanced at the place in resentment where X-Men left, then also ready to leave. However, he found that his ability to transfer seemed to have lost its potency when he activated it. The Demon composed himself. In this case there was only one answer: another person who owned the space ability was transferring here. The space here had been preemptively employed by someone to cause he was unable to use this space at the same time. Demon vigilantly stayed in place. Sure enough, with a huge space portal appeared, Apocalypse and Storm came in front of Demon. As soon as Apocalypse saw the Demon, he recognized him. He had once checked Angel's memory and knew this one was just Demon. Without any words, Apocalypse directly attacked toward Demon while activating his sand control ability. A powerful overmatch like demon, Apocalypse couldn't strengthen him, nor surrendering him with some simple words. The only way was to beat him. Due to them being in the desert, Apocalypse's ability got some increases. One powerful demon had awakened his ancient memory, another had given rise to countless myths. Who was the strongest? Silver sand extended from Devil's feet, and soon bounded him all over. The demon tried to break. How great his strength was, and even he was easily able to lift hundreds of tons of weight, but he was helpless to face these sands. Every time, when Demon shook the sand away from his body, the new sand would appear immediately. No matter how struggling he was, the sands would fill up endlessly. The moment the demon knew that his enemy was at least a level 4 mutant. Seeing he could not break these sands, the demon immediately activated his flame ability. The demon's flame instantly burst over these sands. Boom! At this time, in the center of these sands, Demon's body erupted endless flames, and all of these sands were successfully blown away by the demon's flame. Taking this opportunity, Demon flapped his wings and rose from the ground. Storm was also in the attack range of Demon's flame. She immediately activated her ability and readied to hold off these flames. But Apocalypse appeared in front of her ahead of time and instantly set a transparent shield. The flames disappeared when the moment it touched the shield. As if all of the flames were colliding into an invisible black hole, which was absorbed by the shield. In the sky, Demon's pupil shrunk lightly as he saw the flame was absorbed. He surely knew how powerful his flames were. The ordinary beings were unable to bear it at all, only the demon's body could bear it. But this strange shield absorbs his flame. The demon decided to change skill, and suddenly he clenched his fist towards Apocalypse. A familiar scene reappeared again. 2 energy claws appeared from the ground and trapped Apocalypse. Boom! But the next moment, this pair of energy claws that had once made a great headache to X-Men was simply blown away by Apocalypse. Chapter 268. The demon looked deadpan as the energy claws were turned into sands by Apocalypse. In fact, he was not as relaxed as he looked. At this moment he decided to activate his ultimate skill. If this skill did not still work, he would immediately run away. Roar! Apocalypse raised his head slightly. This moment, the demon in the sky took a deep breath, then swelled up. Storm, stay out of here, said Apocalypse. Hearing the command of the Apocalypse, Storm summoned a wind and flew away. Sizzla! The demon suddenly opened his mouth. Boom! A fiery hellfire burst out from his mouth, and spewed toward Apocalypse. Instantly, Apocalypse summoned his energy shield again. Apocalypse had once seen the nukes on the TV. His shield was able to resist nukes, let alone the devil's fire. However, when they collided together, he just knew he was too arrogant. The energy of hellfire was the core energy of the demon, and these core energies were enough to support demon to spew the ordinary flames for a day and a night. It's enough to turn a city to ashes. But the demon won't do it usually. Because once he used his core energy, it would take him a month to recover. And during the recovery time, his flame ability would also be affected. This time he didn't really have other methods, cunning as he had already wanted to run away in fact. Before that he had tried to activate his teleportation ability, but, as if Apocalypse, this old fox had already known this ability of him. Since Apocalypse came here, he had been using his spiritual power to disturb the space here. Which made Demon unable to locate a transmission coordinate. Naturally, he couldn't teleport himself out of here. Before that, the demon decided to use the hellfire, was naturally for a chance to run away. At this time, Apocalypse was continually beat back by the hellfire. This extremely concentrated energy even melted a hole on his energy shield. Seeing the flame was about to touch his body, Apocalypse kept one hand to support the shield. Another hand secretly clenched into a fist towards Devil's direction. The moment, seeing Apocalypse was beaten back, the demon immediately wanted to activate his teleportation ability. But his legs seemed to be grasped by something. The next moment the demon found. When he looked down, there was a sand hand about 30 meters long that caught him. Due to the continuous interference of Apocalypse, the demon couldn't teleport at all. Seeing this, the demon's pupils constricted again. He had used the hellfire and his flame ability was greatly reduced. Now he was still unable to get rid of Apocalypse's entanglement. What else could he do? Because the energy shield was made up by Apocalypse's energy absorption ability. Soon, the hellfire's energy was absorbed by Apocalypse's shield and that hole also disappeared. At this moment, Apocalypse kept his sand hand and slowly stepped toward the demon. With each step of Apocalypse, the demon was brought one step closer to the ground by the sand hand. Every step of Apocalypse, the demon felt great psychological oppression. Cunning as him knew it clearly. That Apocalypse had no intention to kill him, otherwise, the sand hand would grow larger and tie him harder until he died. Apocalypse was still moving forward. As he moved forward, he intensified his spiritual strength to oppress the demon. At this moment, the demon finally began to lower his noble head. And Nightcrawler regained the control of his body. Apocalypse also discovered demons change. Next, he waved his hand and controlled the sand hand to put the demon in front of him. Apocalypse grasped Nightcrawler's body and activated his strengthening ability. A great energy instantly rushed into Nightcrawler's body. And the Storm's eyes widened. She had seen the angel strengthened by Apocalypse before, so she knew what this represented. The other side, Bruce was a little surprised. What was Apocalypse going to do? Could he still strengthen the demon who had been strengthened by him? The answer would come soon. Nightcrawler's eyes recovered dark again, and a bright smile appeared on his face at the same time. Ha ha ha, this is power, power. Apocalypse also smiled grimly. Is this not what you desire most? Will you surrender to me now? Yes, yes, I will be loyal to you, my master. If you can give me more strength, I will give you my life. The devil cried excitedly. No! No! Sensing the demon's growing strength, Nightcrawler's anxious voice sounded through the demon's body. Oh? Now I have such a great power, what else could you do? At first, I didn't eat you, it was just for waiting a critical moment. After all, the stronger your soul was, the greater benefits I can get. Now, my master has given me a greater power, why should I keep you? It's time for you to go to hell, child. With that, the demon forced a blue flame out of his body, it's Nightcrawler's soul fire. Whereafter, the demon sucked the soul flame into his mouth. At this moment, Apocalypse suddenly pulled back his hand that put on the demon's head. The demon's body began to shrink and eventually became a normal human's figure as Apocalypse put away his hand. The original huge wings, the ferocious bone spurs, the sharp nails and the tail on the demon's buttock, all disappeared away. The demon stood there, as if he was a normal man without any power. The only difference was his vertical yellow eyes. At this moment, Bruce, who was in Xavier's school, suddenly stood up when he saw the vertical eyes of the demon. Because he had once checked Angel's atavistic memory. He knew clearly what that meant. The present demon had become the king of his ethnic group. Such a demon was equal to a level 5 mutant in the X-Men world. In other words, he and Apocalypse successfully strengthened the first level 5 mutant. Seeing the current demon, Bruce realized. It turned out that the mutants who had been strengthened by him could also be strengthened again by Apocalypse. And only in this way, the emergence of level 5 mutants could come to her. It seemed that this world was getting more and more interesting. Thinking this, Bruce suddenly laughed a hearty laugh. Chapter 269. Looking at the yellow-eyed demon who exuded a king's aura, Apocalypse was a little surprised. At first, Apocalypse didn't have an intent to strengthen the demon, but he just wanted to control his mind. Apocalypse clearly knew it that mutants were scarcely possible to evolve into a level for themselves. However, as the inventor of the strengthening mutants ability, Apocalypse found that the demon's power inherited from another evil power, not Nightwalker's own power, when he came into touch with the demon. Due to this, Apocalypse changed his thoughts and began to strengthen the demon. In fact, Bruce was powerful too much than Apocalypse, but he didn't have played out the real power of the strengthening mutants ability. Anyway, due to various circumstances, it created the current level 5 demon. At the same time, the first time Apocalypse detected Bruce, through the yellow-eyed demon. There was another mutant with strengthening ability? And even stronger than him. For the first time Apocalypse had a sense of crisis. So after turning the yellow-eyed demon into his second horseman, Apocalypse immediately went away with the yellow-eyed demon and the storm. An inconspicuous corner in a dark street. A middle-aged man in a dark yellow windbreaker walked out slowly. His mouth bared the beast-like tusks, and his sharp, elongated paws stained with indiscernible internal fragments. His face was covered with blood, obviously he had just been through a hard battle. The windbreaker man knew he was tailed by a large underground organization. As he prepared to leave the street, another man in black blocked his escape route. "Victor, where are you going?" Obviously this man in black was going to trap him, but intentionally greeted him in a prankish way. Victor smiled coldly. Next, he landed all fours like a beast, suddenly jumped up and rushed towards this man in black. The man in black was unmoved to face Victor's attack as if he were waiting to die. Soon, he was torn to pieces by Victor. Just as Victor was about to leave again, another identical man in black appeared. "Damn it, you're Multiple Man, James?" Victor suddenly understood. "Well, you are not a hick, it seems. Someone wants to buy your life, so I'm sorry." With that, the whole street was instantly filled with hundreds of men as identical as James. Next, they armed with the silenced pistols and fired wildly at Victor. Boom boom bam. Victor evaded as much as he could, but he was eventually shot to be a sieve, because the bullets were too dense. Strangely enough, he didn't fall down and was still standing there, though he had become a blood man. A few seconds later, he had squeezed these bullets out of his body. "I have spoken, it's unable to kill this guy in this way." At this moment, a strange man in tights that covered from feet to head came out behind James, and the only thing out of the air was his eyes. Besides, there were two katanas on his back. Victor laughed bitterly at the moment of seeing this strange man. "Deadpool. Haha, it seems, my life is worth a lot of money, both of you two unexpectedly acted together. Congratulations, correct answer. I wonder, if cutting your head off to put in the refrigerator, will it grow out again?" Before Deadpool's words fell down, he had pulled his katanas out and walked toward Victor. In fact, Victor was planning to run away. In either direction, however, was filled by Multiple Man's duplications. He had to kill these duplications one by one. But, Multiple Man's duplications didn't defend at all, and was just standing there waiting for his slaughter. In normal condition, a person should have already run out of energy in such a hard combat. Fortunately Victor also had great endurance, besides his self-healing ability. But after killing hundreds of duplications, he just found a dilemma. That his killing speed couldn't catch up Multiple Man's copy speed. Multiple Man created 3 duplications, he just killed one. In the end, these duplications became more and more. No other way, he had to turn back and rush towards Deadpool. "Why don't you keep running?" Deadpool whistled and jumped up, looked very relaxed. Victor was extremely furious, he waved his paws and rushed to Deadpool. Deadpool was also unmoved facing Sabretooth's attacks, and at the mercy of Sabretooth's paws stabbed into his body, then he raised his katana and cut towards Sabretooth's neck. Psst! Victor's paws penetrated Deadpool's body and even reached his spine. "Not bad, even if I'm dead, I also left this fucking guy an unforgettable lesson." With that thought, Sabretooth used his last consciousness to snap Deadpool's spine. At this moment, his head was almost cut off too by Deadpool. "Oh! You are really a bastard!" Deadpool yelled in an exaggerated way that didn't at all make Multiple Man beside Deadpool feel him being in great pain. Multiple Man knew clearly about Deadpool's self-healing ability. Even if this guy was blown up to a muddy flesh, this guy could also recover soon. Such an injury was nothing for Deadpool. This guy was unconscious. "Wade. We're done. Take him to Chief Ghost." Deadpool took back his katana, Multiple Man controlled 4 duplications and carried Sabretooth away. The secret base of the Killer Union. Bruce looked at the chained Sabretooth and waved the others away. Ghost nodded, then headed Deadpool and Multiple Man out of the door. Who are you? Victor raised his head and looked at Bruce. He had understood this one in front of him was just the real boss of the Killer Union. The point is not who I am, but you will become more powerful from now on. With that, Bruce put his hand on Sabretooth's head and activated the strengthening mutant ability. After finishing it, Bruce opened the panel to check Sabretooth's information. Name, Victor Creed. Identity, Sabretooth, Level 4 Mutant. Abilities, Advanced Healing Factor, 120W, Bone Control, 120W, Bone Harden, 90W, Beast King Senses, 90W, Ultimate Fighting Technique, 3W, Proficient in Firearms, 3W. After strengthening, Sabretooth awakened the Bone Control ability. Bruce found that Sabretooth's bone density was now close to Wolverine's adamantium bones. Taking a few steps back, Bruce conveyed a thought to Sabretooth that escaping here, then disappeared in place. Ah! Crunch! The hard bone spurs twisted the chains into scrap that held Victor at first. A bone spur stretched tens of meters and directly poked a big hole in the room. Whereafter, Victor retracted the spur and ran away. This marks the end of part 45 of the story Marvel Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.